Welcome into Inside LAFC podcast, joining you from a little cooler Alhambra. Nice breeze shooting through here, as you will see. I am solo today. Yes, we're going to do something a little differently. It's going to be a very special podcast. I will be joined here shortly by LAFC goalkeeper Maxime Crépeau. He is back 10 months after MLS Cup, back in the first team. We'll get his thoughts about the return, the journey from that injury, and what it took. I can only imagine the challenges that resided in front of him. We'll talk a little bit about Galaxy. I'll give you my thoughts on what I saw and reinforce how important this game was as we're into the business end of the regular season. A few games left. LAFC needs all the points to make sure they can finish at least in the top four. And I'll let you know how there's a very good chance they could still finish first in the West. Yes, a lot still on offer here for LAFC. Inside LAFC podcast. Rate, review, download, subscribe, tell a friend, and the podcast starts right now. And welcome back. We are very excited about this week's pod as we get to talk about the 10-month return to the first team for Maxime Crépeau. What it was like. Can't even imagine what went through his mind over these last few months as he got back in there triumphantly with the victory over the Galaxy. Flying solo here today. You know, sometimes you got to break away from the group, maybe just temporarily. Lionel Richie did it with the Commodores. Gwen Stefani, no doubt. You know, just test the waters. I'm just kidding. We're going to do it. This is a Maxime Crépeau show, but we're going to have a little recap here as well about the Galaxy. Absolutely remarkable turnout and atmosphere. And another famous night. And the one thing you take away, because Giorgio Chiellini, we spoke to him on the podcast, he says, you can't really call it a derby because there's too many goals. Derbies are supposed to be 1-0, 1-0, you name it, scoreless. Every LAFC Galaxy game in MLS history has had at least 2 goals, and the fact they've had 2 goals has only happened twice. It's usually 4, 6, or more. In fact, I did the math here. 19 games, including the MLS's back game, because there was 8 goals in that game back in 2020. So 19 games between these two in MLS play, 75 goals, 6 more this weekend. It's just the way it is. I don't think we're ever going to have a 1-0. We'll never have a scoreless LAFC Galaxy game. I think that is physically impossible as the goals keep pouring in. And you add up to the 3 games in MLS play. There was a 4th one as well in MLS Cup action, all with a lot of goals. LAFC will win the MLS series thanks to their win at Dignity Health. LA Galaxy won the one at the Rose Bowl, and here we are. But this was a huge victory for the Black and Golds because, A, they had lost 3 games in a row, needed to get out of that funk, not only just get the result, but find the back of the net because that was starting to become a bit of a struggle as well. The game against Miami, they were getting chances and weren't able to convert them. The game against Portland weren't getting the chances. Everything was flowing, and Steve Cherundolo after the game talked about that. You know, it was a cathartic moment by and large for this team to be able to experience goals, experience the victory. The other part why it was so big, and I'll come back to the game in a moment, is what lies ahead. So there's 6 games for LAFC for the remainder of the season. 4 of them are away. They haven't been a great away team in 2023, so you got to bank the points at home. If LAFC can win their next 2 home games and win this Galaxy game, they're going to be in the top 4. You hope they get some points away. But you look at what is happening this week for LAFC. These away games are insane. Wednesday, it's going to be first for second place in the Western Conference. Say what you want about St. Louis City. They're an expansion team. Well, they're first in the West. I think only one team has scored more goals than them. I think it's Columbus has 57 goals and St. Louis City has 56. So that's first for second in the West. Saturday, it's a rematch of MLS Cup 2022. LAFC wanted to add trophies this season. They haven't done it yet. There's still several opportunities to do that moving forward. You have the Campeones Cup later this month, MLS Cup, Supporter Shield probably out of their reach. There's still chances to win some trophies. But regardless if they win them or not, just look back to the CCL final and all the huge games that LAFC supporters have been able to participate in. Obviously, the 2 Galaxy games, the one at the Rose Bowl, the one here, the Messi game. the St. Louis game, first and second, this Philadelphia rematch. It's a loaded schedule, and there's just never a dull moment because so many people talk about MLS and they say, well, this is the time of year. Some of these games don't matter. Well, they do. And I think the expanded playoff certainly gives it a little more sizzle as LAFC will have several targets. If they can go and beat St. Louis, which is not out of the realm of possibility, St. Louis play a very frantic style, and I think we saw it with the Galaxy too. The difference in when you score first, LAFC are going to win games. They haven't lost a game this season when they scored first. St. Louis City, that is going to be, someone's going to score a goal, and whoever scores first is going to be in really good shape. We'll see if it's LAFC. But if they win that, it's going to be 3 points off of St. Louis City, and you got to like LAFC's chances from that point forward. If they don't finish first in the West, you want to finish in those top 4 spots. In the expanded playoffs, there's going to be 4 quarterfinal matchups in each conference, and the top 4 seeds, it's best of 3, will have home field advantage. So if you lose a game, you'll get a second shot, and a second shot with a home game, 2 more games potentially at BMO Stadium. Hopefully they'll just need one. Hopefully they'll need just one. So there's a lot here on the horizon for LAFC as they build these playoff credentials. You look at the Western Conference, there's not much separating. St. Louis is there, but then LAFC, Vancouver's playing great, Dynamo's playing great, Portland got a good win over the weekend, Seattle's there. Whoever is playing hottest this time in October, November is going to go to MLS Cup. Maybe that's LAFC. It was a good sign what we saw against Galaxy, which felt like a bit of a trap game, right? Galaxy were playing better, LAFC weren't. It's usually the roles are flipped, but this time LAFC was in a position where, some people thought they were the underdogs. Crazy stuff. But a huge win for LAFC. 2 more goals for Denny Bouanga. He has 14, which is co-leader in MLS for the Golden Boot. It's crazy. There's like 6 guys between 14 and 12 goals, if not more. I'll have to double check. Timothy Tillman gets his first goal since March. Huge for him. And it was a really nicely taken goal. And Ryan Hollingshead, who was our guest on the podcast last week, and he's a great sport because we rib him all the time. He said, yeah, you crossed that ball. It wasn't a goal. Yeah, that ball went off your back. This one, he got the ball from Carlos Vela. We're going to see our wonderful crack staff. Ulysses Roman has a drone shot. Hopefully it'll get out there. We can see it. Maybe it's not for public consumption, but I know a guy, and we'll get that out. You'll see the movement from Ryan Hollingshead and how he got into a central channel and was able to convert. He has 27 career goals, which is one of the highest totals for a defender in MLS history. And we're efforting those stats so we can get them to you. So 4 good goals, and you do allow 2 goals. That second goal that Yoshida scored, obviously, is one that LAFC needs to prevent in that circumstance. You're up 2-1. Everyone was biting their fingernails when it's 2-2, and we're getting down to those final 15, 20 minutes because a point wasn't going to cut it. You needed to win this game. And a great sign, LAFC got the 3rd goal, and to make no bones about it, they got that 4th goal to seal the deal, as we like to say in the business, and move forward and get ready for these 2 away games. Then they have Minnesota and Salt Lake at home. I don't know if it's in that order. And then they have the 2 away games to wrap up 2023. Get the points where you can get them and move forward. And we're going to speak to Maxime Crépeau here in a few minutes, so I will leave that to him. I get emotional thinking about going back to MLS Cup, and his dad was there, and I embraced him, and he started crying, and Maxime was with the phone with Team Security Paul in the hospital watching the celebrations. And it was just a tangible moment. And we were all celebrating so much, but deep down, you're like, what becomes of Maxime Crépeau? These are injuries that sometimes people don't come back from. And athletes are aware of that. And their careers have an expiration. They have a small window to pursue this sport, which they give every minute of their life to, and training and games and film study, all of that. It is a full-time job and then some. But you don't know once you realize that there's a fragility with the injuries and your body may not be responding. It was 10 months since he was away. And there were some complications, and you have to wonder. But to see him come back and obviously earn that opportunity, going through the right tracks, going to LAFC 2. It was great with LAFC 2 because LAFC 2 is playing much better. Again, they are the youngest team in MLS, but they're doing much better. And, when they were able to bring out Mamadou Fall and Danny Crisostomo and Maxime Crépeau in their 11, it's a different team. You have that experience to go with our very talented youngsters. But that very young team, Maxime was able to join them and get that game experience and progress. It's a journey to get back there, and there are no shortcuts. As much as the players want to fast track it and say, I want to get back, I'm ready. The coaches and all those people do know when you're ready. Now was the time. And think about it, coming back for a game that LAFC absolutely have to have, not just because of the rivalry, but because they had lost 3 in a row and they needed a shot in the arm. And they got it. And Maxime, Crépeau, I think you just need, and I'll talk to him about it, you just need to see how your body reacts, but a great sign. Special Inside LAFC podcast. Rate, review, download, subscribe, tell a friend. We will be joined next by the one and only, the returning star to our LAFC galaxy here. It is Maxime Crépeau. He is next on Inside LAFC Pod. We are back here on Inside LAFC podcast. You know him, you love him. There he is, Maxime Crépeau. And you've been on this podcast a few times since you injured yourself back in November. You were here. You were the interpreter for Denny Bouanga, and you've been on here to help us out. So this is not just like another appearance.
Well, I guess so. But yeah, I'm getting used to these podcasts with you, and it's cool.
I can't lie, Maxime. I got very nervous and was very excited to speak with you today because I was going through my mind what was going through your mind. What exactly happens when you've been out for 10 months and then you return? Actually, let me start like this. When did you find out? How was that conveyed to you that said, Max, you're starting against the Galaxy?
Yeah, 2 days before the game, I had a talk with Steve and Oka up in the office before training, and they brought me the news that they've put me in for this game, which was really positive for me and really a bit of nervous touch, a bit of excitement, a bit of enjoyment as well, because there's so much work put into the moment. So it was a kind of a mix of emotions of all these little things. But at the end of the day, I was really happy to step on the field and contribute, put my grain of salt to the win against the Galaxy on the weekend.
You have a lot of expressions in many different languages.
Yes, that's why sometimes the people are confused, but it is what it is.
What was the one in French you told me right before we started about making that first appearance? Say it in French.
La glace est brisée.
Which you said it's like kind of breaking the ice.
Breaking the ice.
What we say in English.
Now we gotta, keep it rolling.
Keep it rolling. This was a process though for you, because obviously getting the LAFC 2 games told everyone, okay, he's healthy. How healthy were you when you first started with LAFC 2? How much more did you have to work on your body from when you first started getting games there, starting the game on Saturday?
Yeah, it's there's so much work within that 10-month span, but with the first game that I've played was around 9 months or so, and it's mostly getting comfortable to be in those positions again. So you have to feel it to know what you need to arrange and to touch up, and so the physical part was fine, because 90 minutes, regardless, you need to go through your 90 minutes physically, so everything was fine. It was just more getting the feel back and really adjusting what do I need to work on still to be in a place that, all right, well, Max is back, but there's a bit of touch-ups physically and more explosivity and me being more comfortable, but overall, I was fine.
No way you could have had it all. I mean, this is not only the game, your first game back in 10 months, but it's the Galaxy game, and this place is rocking. What were your nerves like? I mean, when you roll out to the stadium, you look around, you want it to feel normal, but it can't feel normal, can it?
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that, where there's a bunch of emotions rolling through. I got some images of the last game I've played there, and then you have the crowd with bit of emotions because they receive me so well, and after that there's that game. You got to focus on that game. You got to blend everything out and really focus on your job. And it was, like I've said, some happiness, some excitement, a bit of butterflies in the stomach, which is totally normal because, as you mentioned, you cannot hide from the fact that it's been almost a year. So it was really cool to experience. And like I said, ice is broken.
This brings it all the way back. Did you think it was going to be this long? Do you think it was hopefully that maybe it was going to be shorter, or did you feel like you were maybe ahead of schedule?
It depends. It was a roller coaster in terms of coming back because I took
ups
my
and downs,
yes,
yeah.
I took my time where I was pushing every day, and then at one moment I had some places that I kind of found a plateau that I was not moving, and then there was some really moments that I went really fast, and then things were going really well, and then boom, at one point I had scar tissue that popped.
Oh boy.
Kind of felt weird, but it is the reality of the situation in our job, and so this was a bit of step backwards, I could say, but it was one step behind to do five and up front, and so at the end of the day, it was a positive thing. It's just that no matter that when it happened, it was difficult to absorb once again, but in that process, I've learned a lot, and so I would say that I didn't rush it because at the end of the day, I don't feel anything right now today, so it's nice.
Great. I would have never asked you this before, but now that you're back, I figure it's worth asking because I am always intrigued by the journey of the athletes. Was there a moment where you thought, I may not, maybe this doesn't react, maybe my leg doesn't react the way I want to? Was there ever a moment where you were worried that something like that could happen?
I mean, sometimes you can think about these little moments, but at the end of the day, I never doubted myself. Sometimes you have to really put your head down and get to work, literally, like roll up your sleeves and try to do as much as you can in order to be as fit as you can, as fast as you can. And my mind was always convinced that this is going to be behind me one day, and absolutely, yeah. It's just another injuries, and I've faced some adversity, and it's just another step.
The good news, Max, we'll stop talking about those injuries. Now you get back into the rhythm. How quickly before you felt that, okay, this is it. This is where I want to be, where, you didn't face a lot of shots. I mean, most of the play was at the other end. How did it go for you? What were your expectations for the game?
Yeah, I mean, well, all these games against against the Galaxy is a game that are really emotional, and a lot of numbers are thrown forward, which we did a good job at absorbing them when it was a moment, and we did capitalize on a few of our chances. But it's a game that sometimes it's flying left and right, throwing numbers. It becomes more of a transitional game, which at some point we did a good job of closing this down and just being disciplined and mature enough to close that game.
I'll go back to MLS Cup, and the one of many things that stood with me is the closeness with John and how happy you were for him to get your opportunity. What has that relationship been like? And obviously this week where he's been the number one. Now you're coming in and you take that job. There's only unfortunately room for one goalkeeper. Maybe that changes one day. But what has that relation been like from back there in November to now?
Yeah, Johnny and I, we're really close ever since the first day of school, basically last year.
Came
when
in
everybody
together at the same time?
Yeah, exactly. It was really a genuine human connection, and I'm so happy for him when he does well, and vice versa. We want the best for each other, and every day we push ourselves on the field. We correct ourselves. We see what we can do better as goalkeepers, but as a person to help the team as well to perform and to get 3 points. And so this relationship have not changed since day one, and we deeply care for one another.
That's beautiful. And the chance to call the family back in Quebec. I know it's a big thing. Big Remy was here to get him on the phone and tell him what was going to happen.
My parents are in town, actually.
Oh, yeah?
It wasn't even planned, They were coming for that little trip that we are having this week, and so it was not even planned that they landed the night before the game. So it happens that they were in town for the game.
So they came in, they go, I got something to tell you?
Almost, yeah.
That's incredible. Oh, it was meant to be. It was meant to be.
Maybe.
Upwards and onwards. And I said, we'll get to this point where you were before the injury one of the top goalkeepers, and we look forward to you being there again. What do you want for the rest of this regular season? What do you want to work on? Where do you want to get to feel like you're back to where you were prior to MLS Cup?
No, first things first is to win games, and we are in a spot that we need points, and the standings is really tight, and so every game is considerable a final. Especially our goal is to win the West, and we want to go and gun for it, and we know exactly that we have a group who knows how to go on the road and make it happen, and we have a team that knows how to win at home as well. So for us, the target is to win every single game, and I've said it in the past. This is the approach that we want to have, and on a personal level, well, we got to take it game by game. Cannot put ourselves ahead of schedule. We really got to say, all right, next 90 minutes, what can I do more to improve my game, be more comfortable, be more fluid, because after 10 months, it's been a while.
That's a long time.
But it's literally a matter of helping the team. This is number one, helping the team, winning, and then obviously the rest take care of itself.
Being on the sideline and seeing this team practice and play, have you seen a different perspective? Have you learned something different about the team where you've literally had to sit and watch because you couldn't play? Is there something from your perspective that's changed?
Yeah, I mean, a couple details, because there's some guys I haven't had the opportunity to play with again. So it's like really knowing them, knowing what type of ball they want to receive at some places on the field, how to approach people, because it's not only playing football, it's talking to a person and managing emotions in the heat on the field. And so it's literally learning with who am I going to war with. This is very important.
Final question. What was it like to be in front of the 3252? What was that reaction like?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It's a feeling that never gets old. It never gets old.
That'd be great.
It's always a fire burning inside when you get to play in front of our supporters, and it's always an enjoyable feeling. So I would say that I never get tired of it. Yeah.
One of my favorite interviews. I know no gags that we're both Maxes. It's just the fact that you're back, man. It's a thrill for us, and we know you're such a beloved member. You put your body on the line for this club, and we all love you very, very much for that, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me, and see you next time, man.
We'll do it. Inside LAFC podcast. The great Maxime Crépeau joining us. Make sure you rate, review, download, subscribe, tell a friend, and learn a little French along the way here. See, we're covering a lot of bases.